Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on our reality roundup, we are talking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, The Valley, Love Island, and Southern Hospitality. Let's get into it. Happy Monday or maybe Tuesday. I hope everyone had a great week and weekend. Sorry I'm releasing this a little bit late on Monday, and I'm not sure if the YouTube version is going to be able to come out until Tuesday. So that's why I'm saying happy Tuesday to the YouTubers, but for anyone listening to audio, this should just come out later on Monday. But again, apologies. I went out yesterday, and I don't go out ever, at all. So I went out with one of my content creator friends, Julia. Follow her at Color Us Bravo. And we had a few drinks, and literally three. I just was puking all day long. I just felt so sick, awful, so I could not record yesterday and could barely function today. I literally just got up and it's 1 in the afternoon. So feeling awful, but happy to be here and not wearing a lot of makeup, but fuck it, guys. I don't care. I'm just here to give you guys the news. Trying not to worry so much about what I look like. I just had to be here for you guys because we have a lot to talk about, obviously. And I feel like we should start with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because shit is just hitting the fan for Denise Richards. But I guess we should probably just recap last week in terms of shows. So last week we had our Monday reality roundup. And then on Wednesday, I think I did the Valley recap and the after show and the news that Jax was not returning to the Valley for season 3. And then on Saturday, I gave you guys a recap of the last 3 episodes of The Real Housewives of Miami and episode 2 of The Real Housewives of OC. And if you are over on the Patreon, I also dropped another episode of Next Gen NYC recap for episode 7. And there's only 1 episode left of that. So yeah, guys, if you are able to join the Patreon, please do so. It is patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. It is $5 a month where you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes, and you will get all the regular episodes ad-free, and you will get all the regular episodes early. And we're also just having a live fun chat in there talking about whatever we love to hate, TV, otherwise, everything. So we're having a fun time right now recapping Next Gen on NYC, and then still just trying to figure out what I'm going to do after that. But that's the Patreon. If you can, patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast, and it's not taking away from any of the episodes on the main feed. You are still getting 2 to 3 episodes on the main feed every week for free. So if you can't, totally understand. I can't afford to join a Patreon either, so totally get it. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's start with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So much is going on with poor Denise Richards, and I talked to you guys about this, I believe, last week, that her weird-ass husband, Aaron Phypers, was filing for divorce. It did seem sus because they did seem like they were really in love, despite the fact that we think he is super bizarre. I mean, I talked to you guys about that weird-ass scene from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills where he's explaining to everyone what he does for a living and speaking to them in a very condescending way, the way he thinks that, Big Pharma is coming after him. The whole thing was just absolutely bizarre, but they seemed to be really in love with each other. And then she had that new show that was released recently, which wasn't great, but Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. And, they seemed okay. So I was like, all right, I guess, he's a good dad to her kids, and I guess he's a good partner to her. I don't know. But it seems like things had just gone down the shitter, and literally more news started to release by the day from the moment that he announced that he was filing for divorce. Basically that he's asking for alimony. That's what the court documents show, which is absolutely insane. Something about him needing $20,000 a month in clothes. Who spends that much on clothes? What kind of man that just wears white t-shirts and jeans spends more than $20,000 a month on clothes? And I also think that his family, his parents, is living in one of her townhomes. So she's supporting everyone. It's super bizarre. And then apparently all of this alimony is because he's completely freeloading off of her because he can't work. Because remember that weird cancer research stem cell business that he had that he's currently being sued for is now closed because he's being sued. So it's just absolutely bizarre, and he's just coming out of the woodwork at her, one thing after another. And then Denise Richards came forward to say that Aaron Phypers was abusive against her in their marriage and that she's asked for a restraining order. So it's just so horrible because if you guys go back and listen to my Be True Hollywood Story episode on Denise Richards, she has such a horrifying history with Charlie Sheen. And I think it's a lot of stuff that people don't necessarily know about. It's physical abuse, it's threats, it's I don't even know what to call it. There's some really, really insidious things in there, and I actually read from the court documents from their divorce, and it's the most horrifying things I've ever read, to be quite honest. So I just feel really horrible for her that now she's with like another horrible person who's harming her. Like, you just want someone like this to have a happy ending. This is the kind of person that cares about animals, that cares about children. She adopted a daughter on her own when she was single. Like, she's a really sweet person, and now she has to go through this bullshit again. Anyway, sorry, that's me on a rant. Okay, so I'm gonna read you guys this article um, about Denise. So, Denise Richards has accused her estranged husband, Aaron Phypers, of years of alleged physical and verbal abuse. Richards, 54, filed a temporary restraining order against Pfeiffer's, 52, claiming that he regularly threatened to break my jaw and would cry, beg me to stay, and promise to get help, none of which ever happened. In court documents filed on July 16th, and other outlets reported, Richards wrote that Pfeiffer's has caused me at least 3 concussions. Aaron has told me that he has left recording devices to record me while I was alone in hotel rooms and at my townhouses. Richard said that throughout her marriage to Pfeiffer's, he has threatened to kill her and himself and the police, and that he owns at least 8 unregistered guns. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills alum also attached several photos to the filing, including one in which she has a black eye, claiming it was the result of Pfeiffer's abuse. Aaron would frequently violently choke me, violently squeeze my head with both hands, tightly squeeze my arm, violently slap me in my face and head, aggressively slam my head into the bathroom towel rack, threaten to kill me, hold me down with his knee on my back to the point where I would have to plead with him to get off so that he would not kill me, and hack into my laptop and phone and download all of my messages, Richard wrote. In a legal document, Richards also detailed a recent incident that she claims took place over July 4th weekend. She alleged that Pfeiffer's beat her and hacked into her private messages. She urged the judge to take into account the seriousness of the alleged attacks, and she feared it would happen again. On July 4th, 2025, Aaron repeatedly got within 2 inches of my face and screamed at me degrading profanities, Richard wrote. Aaron repeatedly grabbed my left arm tightly. On July 5th, 2025, Aaron came into my townhouse with his father and got within inches of my face and began yelling at me. With his right hand violently hit the bill of my hat with the back of his hand, which caused my hat to fly off my head, she added. Richard said later that the same day her estranged husband chased me and grabbed both of my arms forcefully and pushed me and dragged me to the ground. I landed hard on the stairs, causing me immense pain, she wrote. Aaron stole my laptop and sent private messages he had stolen from my laptop without my permission. Aaron threatened that I would disappear if I called the police. The Wild Things actor claimed that she didn't report the past alleged abuse because she believed it would result in more damage. Until now, I've been afraid to report Aaron to the police or file for a restraining order because he has repeatedly threatened to kill himself and me if I report him to the police. Richards also alleged that while she was asleep, Pfeiffer's went into her laptop and downloaded everything from her iCloud account and transferred it to his laptop. The drop-dead gorgeous actress also alleged that Pfeiffer screamed at her and smashed her over the head while she was on the toilet, while demanding that she hand over her phone. Richards is asking that Pfeiffer's have no contact with her and that he stays away from her home and workplace, as well as return the electronic devices that he allegedly stole from her. She also notes that she wants Pfeiffer's to be prohibited from using, delivering, copying, printing, or disclosing any text messages, emails, photos, notes, or other content from her cell phone or laptop or any other electronic devices. She says that she requests that Pfeiffer's pay for her legal expenses and other expenses caused by the alleged abuse. She's also requesting that he attend a 52-week batterer intervention program. She was granted a temporary restraining order from the Superior Court of California on July 16th. So, as we know, he reported irreconcilable differences in their divorce filing, and that was on July the 4th. So he came out after that, talking to TMZ of all places. That's where you want to get your most important news at. And he decides to tell TMZ his side of the story. So I'm going to play this clip right now. I hate to even play his side of the story, to be quite honest. I'm just doing this for context and for the fact that this is a podcast that is supposed to be a news report and not completely biased. So I will play his side of the story that he said to TMZ this past weekend.
I caught it. Her and I were watching that show Traders on the sofa where the girls stay at the townhome, and she fell asleep. And I just had this feeling. It was just, now I have her passcodes for her stuff, I'm going through it, and I go in to delete it, and I see some text messages that are super inappropriate. And I'm like, what the hell? And she goes, what? She wakes up and I go, why are you doing this? And she goes, oh my God, please don't leave me and don't leave me and whatever. And I leave and go to the other unit. And she's like, I'm so sorry, I won't do that again. So we make up. And this was like February. Oh yeah, she did. She didn't even invite me to her birthday because she was talking to this guy. And then she was going to meet that guy the day after my birthday, which is March 19th. So I see all this stuff going on. And I'm crushed, man. 9 years with vows. She gets her reconstructive surgery at an incredible facility. Those guys are great. The doctors there, it's top notch. The first surgery, I felt there's still communication going on. So my intuition was, you need to just double check. You know, before she said, no problem. You can look at my stuff anytime. I want to rebuild trust after I called her the first time. Well, I opened her computer and all I did is I hit refresh or upload or sync or whatever. I just hit iCloud thing, man. And it repopulated all the text communication that she deleted from her stuff. And it was jaw dropping. And I took pictures of it because I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
You found that, so that was back earlier this year. And then so you essentially...
Yeah, and then she said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Oh, I love you. Please don't leave me, please. And then she was doing it right up until, and I found out she was talking to the guy right during the surgery. And I'm nursing her back to health.
And what date was that at?
That was like up until, let me see here, like May 28th or something. And she's been in communication. Then she starts changing her passwords and you can't see my phone. I need this for something.
So ultimately, I understand. So she had the affair. She kept doing it in May. So then you.
Yeah, I think that's all we have here. It doesn't like excuse anything. He really is sitting there with like the most puppy dog eyes being like, she hurt me, she's cheating on me. Literally no one cares. And I feel like this is the first time in the fandom in the world that we're like, shut up, white man. We don't believe you. We don't care. Okay, I'm going to go through one more article that just gives a little bit more context because, of course, this situation is ever evolving. So this is from page 6, and it says, Aaron Phypers is accusing his estranged wife, Denise Richards, of being addicted to Vicodin and having an ongoing affair with another man after she leveled shocking abuse allegations against him. In an explosive letter to friends and family obtained by page 6 from Phypers, he claims Richards needs an intervention for her alleged drug addiction that has affected their 14-year-old daughter, Eloise. Which I thought was interesting because I was like, wait a minute. In the court documents, it said that they didn't have any minor children together. So I was like, oh, does that mean he never adopted Eloise? Because it was our understanding that he did. So I don't know why he's calling her their 14-year-old daughter, because she ain't, according to the law and everything. Anyways, he writes, for nearly a decade, she has struggled with an addiction to Vicodin, which she jokingly calls vitamin D or white chestnuts, mixed with Adderall and tequila, he claims. Some of you know this has been an issue for over 20 years. She's no longer eating real meals, and I've witnessed her pass out from substances, putting herself and others in danger, including while driving with our daughter. He also claims Richards has been involved in an affair, which he learned about earlier this year. She begged me not to leave, saying it was nothing, and she only loved me, Phypers alleged in the letter. Then she denied it all, even the explicit messages I found. Despite her prompt to stop, more lies and shocking evidence emerged. Phypers further claims that she's the one who physically abused him on July 4th, their date of separation. Of course, why do men always do that? No, she hit me. On July 4th, a simple act, ordering food for our daughter Eloise, led to an unthinkable discovery. Denise accused me of using her card, and in the confusion, my phone disappeared, he claims. After searching for over 20 hours and being physically attacked when I asked for it back, I eventually found it smashed inside a trash bag, hidden beneath rotting garbage and litter. When I asked why, she denied it completely. That same night, she texted me saying she was filing for divorce. Phypers claimed he and his parents have since been mistreated after he filed for divorce first. I've experienced stalking, an AirTag placed on my car, been denied access to my personal belongings, and watched my elderly parents become frightened and mistreated, simply because they supported me and helped take care of Denise's animals, her daughter, and our home, he claimed in the letter. This isn't just a relationship breaking down. It's a cry for help, he alleges, asking for prayers for Richards. He also doubles down on his previous denial of Richards' abuse allegations, claiming, I have never, ever physically harmed my wife, and I did not give her a black eye. I have only ever stepped in to protect her or others, including separating her from physically attacking her daughter, always coming from a place of care and concern. So that was ridiculous because when he adds in our physically harming our daughter, I mean, not that I ever believed him for a second, but when you add in physically harming our daughter, we know you're full of shit because Denise would never do that. So I do just want to speak to cycles of abuse very briefly, only because I feel like it's really relevant here because I feel like sometimes the fandom will get confused in the sense of like, okay, well, why didn't she leave earlier? And why didn't she spot it with a guy like this? I mean, it's really obviously not that simple sometimes. Like I said, she's been through this with someone before, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily notice the signs. And I would say that for the most part, we all try to put on our best foot forward when we start relationships, and we don't start off abusive, right? It's probably something that happens slowly over time. And like she said, she didn't want things to get worse. She didn't want him to harm her more, and she didn't want him to harm himself. And if those are the kinds of threats that someone is making in response to abuse, then sometimes you keep it to yourself because you don't want those things to happen. So I think that's a very reasonable explanation as to why she didn't come forward until now that she feels safe doing so, now that they are legally getting divorced. So I think this is just really sad for her. And speaking of cycles of abuse, something that does frequently happen is the apologies, the promising never to do it again. And you love that person, you want to believe them, you have invested in them, right? They've been together for 9 years. So I feel like there is a big part of people when they're in relationships like this where they want to believe their partner when they say they're never going to do it again. They want to make it work no matter what. I mean, honestly, if you go back and listen to my episode of Be True Hollywood Story about Denise, the things that she endured with Charlie, wild. And literally just because they were a family. I'm telling you, she did all of this, like insane amounts of like just excusing things that he did, some horrific things, because that was the father of her daughters. And this isn't exactly the same. I just want to say that, like, she really seems like the type of person that will do everything in her power to try to make a family work. I think that's really, really important to her. That's what I was able to see and sort of, quote unquote, getting to know her through my research. So definitely go back and listen to that episode if you have a chance. But this is absolutely devastating for Denise. I feel so horrible for her that she's going through it, but I guess some of the positive is that it seems like the public is mostly on her side because we always thought he was awful. His stupid puppy dog face isn't really changing our minds in any regard, so fuck you, Aaron Phypers. Okay, let's move on to our next story, which is The Valley. And as I told you guys last week, midweek, Jax Taylor will not be returning for season 3 of The Valley, and it probably wasn't his choice, but sometimes the networks allow these people to release statements in the way that they want to save face and to make themselves feel like not so awful about it, but it just didn't really sound like something he would ever do, right? Like, doing the show is what he loves more than anything in the world. But at the same time, I was confused because I thought we had heard from Alex Baskin, who's executive producer, that they weren't going to make those moves. But it is really interesting to hear for the first time that they've decided to listen to the fans. It feels like that's never really happened before. That being said, I think there is still a door open for him in future seasons, and I think we're still going to see aspects of him in season 3, obviously, like he's still in Brittany's life. So Andy Cohen has spoken about it. He was asked on Radio Andy about his opinion on Jax leaving, so I'm just going to play that clip for you guys.
Happened. Yes, Jax announced yesterday that he's going to be stepping away from the Valley. I'm very pleased with his decision, and I think it is reading the room well. And I think the most important thing is that I hope that he can work on all of his issues. And this comes up at the reunion. I have kind of a serious conversation with him about his need for control and his anger issues and what it's going to take to get to a better place. with Brittany and, in the world. And I hope that he takes the time to lean into this away from the cameras. And he he seems very committed from our conversations to his sobriety, and I hope that time away from the cameras will further encourage that and further encourage him to get it together.
Personally, I don't think he'll ever get it together because if he really is a narcissist, then he's just always going to be a narcissist. And even in just listening to more recent episodes of his podcast, which I have to do for like quote unquote work, I don't listen to all of them, but like some of them I listen to, and it really seems like he believes he's no different than any of his friends. He feels like he is being treated differently and that he doesn't feel like he's doing anything different. So why is he the one who has to go to rehab? Why is he the one being fired? So it doesn't feel like he's ever really gonna get it. I think that's sort of obvious. And I think, Bravo is doing the right thing by not rewarding him, by giving him a platform, but I don't think he's redeemable. I just really don't at this point. So Sheena is releasing a book, as we've talked about, and she's been releasing like, excerpts, and then she's been talking about it on her podcast. So she's just been like, buy my book, buy my book. Press tour starts, I think, today. She's going on like a multi-city tour. I know that she's going to be on So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey later this week, and I think she's going to be on Access Hollywood tomorrow, like Housewives Nightcap podcast. So she's really pushing the promotion of this. We talked about this last week. I read you guys the excerpt from the Glamour magazine article about Brock having an affair, and we discussed, everything about that, whether we thought it was true, why she didn't bring it up in season 11, what this means for her going forward, right? We talked it all. But since then, she's released more, and she's also talked to, like I said, Us Weekly and other outlets. So I'm going to go into a couple of things. And so she did speak to Us Weekly specifically about what she talked about in her book about Brock cheating and the marriage stuff. So there's a couple pieces that I wanted to read from here. So she says, or sorry, this is the question that was given to her by Us Weekly. In the book, you reveal that Lisa Vanderpump knew about your affair with Eddie, but pretended not to when she brought you and Brandy together on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in 2013. And Sheena said, she low-key used my real-life pain to launch her TV empire, and what an empire she has. She gaslit me about it for a decade instead of just coming to me in the beginning. That's the thing with Lisa. She doesn't make mistakes. So I was confused by this, to be honest, because what do you mean? Like when she was filming that scene, that sit down with Brandy, she knew she was doing it as that transitionary scene from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to Vanderpump Rules. She knew what the scene was going to be about. Like, maybe, and listen, I hate Lisa, right? Like, there's no way that I'm defending Lisa, but I'm just confused because you also gaslit yourself, right? Like, I mean, I think there are excerpts of this in the book elsewhere where, and I didn't really know this. Apparently, she went on her own sort of press tour about Eddie Cibrian at the time, to like every outlet that would listen. And so it was like all over the tabloids, but it was at her beck and call. So, yeah, I mean, Lisa could have been lying about knowing about it from the jump. I mean, like, Sheena did work for her for a while, so she may not have known then, but when you guys physically sat down, everyone knew why we were here. Even Brandy said that. What are you talking about? So I'm confused. And then the question is asked to her, when did your relationship change with Lisa? And she said, on season 6 of VPR, when James Kennedy told Katie Maloney that the outfit she was wearing wasn't flattering, I got a phone call from Lisa. She didn't want to fire James, so she needed someone to stand up for him at a staff meeting. If you go back and watch, I'm getting a death stare from Lisa, like, when are you going to speak up? When are you going to stick to the script? That's when I stopped following her orders, and I feel like the relationship changed after that. So I feel like that's really interesting. I mean, obviously we know that Lisa played producer. Sheena always sort of was her little puppet. So it's interesting that so early on, I mean, season 6 is pretty early on. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm like 99.9% that I'm sure that this was actually season 7 because I was watching it just the other day. And I'm surprised that her people didn't fact check this. This was Pride in season 7 because Beau was introduced to Lisa in that episode. I literally just watched it, season 7. So anyway, not a big deal, but still pretty early on. And I'm surprised that she would decide to, go against the leader so early on in her reality TV career because we've seen Sheena bend over backwards time and time again for Lisa. And, it's just sort of surprising that she really ever stood up for anyone, quite frankly. So, listen, Sheena's gonna Sheena, but I do think that this book is going to be hella interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I am gonna have to read it for my episode of Be True Hollywood Story that I am for sure gonna do for you guys on this. And I have been waiting for this in order to do it. I mean, we feel like we know a lot about Sheena, but we actually don't. I apologize if everyone can hear sirens. I am so sorry. There's been sirens going on outside for like a while now, and I can't do anything about it. Apologies. We think we know a lot about Sheena, but we really don't. Like, do you know that she's half Mexican and that guy Ron that walks around with the big mustache with her mom, like her dad, the guy she calls her dad, is not her like birth dad. So there's so much more to her that we actually don't really like know the like real meat and potatoes on. We don't know about her high school experience. We know about like her dating life, but that's really it. We met her in her mid-20s, right? So like think about how much life Sheena had before that. Okay. Then she says, or the question was asked, the cast has been vocal about the show not being scripted, but you write about another moment in season 9 that was also orchestrated, a confrontation with Lala Kent about you and Brock getting engaged during James and Raquel's engagement weekend. And Sheena said, we absolutely scripted that finale, Lala and I, pulled Ariana and Katie aside and we're like, okay, we're going to show up and do our job, but we're not going to tell production, but we're going to fake a fight. Production won't know we did this until this came out. That was the one off and only time we faked something. It was desperation over wanting to save our jobs and get another season. Okay, I remember that, but like a lot of their fights felt fake at the time, honestly. I mean, like that whole season just felt very fake and forced. It felt like, nobody had like really real relationships in that season. It was the COVID season. Even like Raquel inviting all of these people to her engagement party felt like disingenuous. Like, why would Katie Maloney be at Raquel's engagement party? It just didn't feel genuine at the time. Um, and then about Brock, the question was asked, you were pregnant when Brock had an affair with a woman from his gym. Tell us about your decision to include the revelation in the book. And Sheena said, I went back and forth. It started as absolutely not. It was an 8-month conversation with Brock. After several therapy sessions and really talking about it, we decided that this book would be inauthentic if we didn't put it in at all. I mean, maybe. The question was asked, was the hesitation yours or Brock's? And she said, a little of both. But I'd rather it come out of my words because unfortunately there was another person involved in this situation, and at any point she could come forward. I mean, true, but it's been like 4 or 5 years. I mean, people do come forward like centuries later, and so like who knows? I get that in that sense, but it sort of feels weird because like Summer Moon is gonna read this one day. I don't know. So then she was asked, what was your reaction when you learned about the affair? And she said, a slap across the face and me chucking a Rubik's Cube in his direction. But then I had to take a deep breath and remind myself that our daughter is upstairs asleep and it's not so cut and dry. And then she was asked, did you consider walking away? And Sheena said, had there been no kid, or honestly, had I found out when he did it, 100%, without a doubt, I would have left. I've always been a person who said, if I'm ever cheated on, I would leave. My ex-husband, Mike Shay, had an emotional affair which honestly could be worse than physical, but this was such new territory for me to navigate. And I think it does make such a difference, right? It was 2 years later that she found out they were already married twice. They already had a daughter. It doesn't condone anything, obviously, and I'm the same kind of person. There's no way I would accept cheating in any form. But then you have to look at all of the circumstances here. And I feel even wild saying that because I feel like I would be the kind of person where there would never be a circumstance I would ever be okay with this. But it is so, there are so many other factors, right? I mean, so much has happened since then. You've grown since then. It allegedly hasn't happened since then, right? I guess relationships aren't so cut and dry, which I know, but like for me personally, I'm a very black and white person just in general, which I know I shouldn't be. There are so many shades of gray and everything. And yeah, I guess this is a perfect example of that. I wonder what you guys think, if she should have left or should have not. And then the question is asked, why do you think he did it? And why do you think he finally came clean? And Sheena said, after Scandal, he was worried something would leak. I was thankful it came from him. It took him a long time to tell me because he was afraid. I can have sympathy now and understand that he felt like he didn't deserve a second chance at being a father. Davies has a strained relationship with his 2 older kids from a previous relationship who live in Australia with their mother. That really broke my heart for him. That he felt like he needed to sabotage something so amazing because he didn't deserve it. We can't let our past define who we are, and I didn't want him to wear that for the rest of his life. And then she was asked, is your relationship fully healed? And she says, it takes work every single day. I will forever have insecurities. Just the other day, I saw him swipe and delete a text, and I'm like, what was that? And he's like, seriously, Sheena? But I genuinely believe he would never do anything like that again. I do trust him. I have forgiven him. We've put in work in couples therapy. We have a very open line of communication. I want to show people that if you truly love someone, a mistake from their past doesn't have to define the future of your relationship. And then last week on Shenanigans, she decided to read an entire other chapter of her book. So I'll give you the synopsis. Basically, she talked about being demoted in season 8 or for season 8, and I didn't know that. So I definitely knew about Kristen being demoted in season 7 and that she was paid episodic pay as opposed to, how are they paid typically? I forget. But anyways, episodic pay. And this is what ended up happening to Sheena. And it was sort of, she was blindsided by it. And Alex Baskin told her that it wasn't his call. So I'm surprised at like whose call it was. She found out about this right before she was about to go on Watch What Happens Live. And when she was actually told, she was told, like, listen, we really value you. This isn't about not valuing you. We're actually going to be starting another show, which was obviously going to be Vanderpump Villa. And we want you to be on both shows. And we want you to be the bridge between like the old people and the new people in season 8, which she fully was. And I feel like it gives us a lot of an explanation for her behavior in that season. She was definitely very emotional. And yeah, she was going through egg freezing and stuff. But she was feeling like she was being dicked around. And I'm really surprised to hear this because she is such an integral part of the show. Like, listen, you can have your issues with Sheena all you want, and I definitely do. But I'm just surprised that her, of all people, would be someone that they would make this decision about. Now, I'm confused about what demotion necessarily means because she was full time. Like, and Kristen too in season 7. They're both in like the cast photo. And to me, that means like, you are on the show. You're a full-time cast member. So I guess demotion is just more about appearances and episodic pay and money and that kind of thing. But again, I just wonder why a decision like that would be made. And she did say she was obviously being paid by that point more so than like Dana and Max and Charlie and all those people who came on in season 8. Because you do get more per season. Like, for example, Stassi was a little bit behind everybody else because she quit in season 3. And it's really based on seniority. But when you're demoted, it's based on like episodic pay. I don't know. It's so fucked up. And she did say that Sandoval actually really tried to help and fight for her during that period of time. And he did the same thing for Kristen when it happened to her in season 7. But yeah, I just don't really understand the point of it. And she does explain that this is what led to a lot of her beef with Dana because Dana thought it had to do with Max and her being jealous that Dana was starting to see Max and that Sheena had a history with Max. And Sheena's now saying, even though we do know she was jealous, but she did say that, like, you know, the infamous scene we saw of her in the back alley with her puffer, like, going crazy at Pride. She's talking to Dana and she's saying, like, this isn't about Max, but what wasn't, you know, captured on film. But what she actually said to Dana was like, look, they've demoted me. They're fucking me over. I feel just like super shitty that you've come in. They're showcasing all of the things that you're doing. They're showcasing your stand-up comedy, but they didn't showcase any of my businesses. Remember that Sheena was doing a Broadway, not Broadway, but like she was doing like an off-Broadway show in Vegas at that time. Straight tips. Gay tips from a straight girl to a gay guy, something like that. And so she felt like, look at all the things that I've done that they're not showcasing, but they're showcasing all the newbies stuff. So at that point, Dana like completely understood what was going on and they became friends again. And then Sheena got her quote unquote rightful place as a full-time cast member in season 9. But then the way the chapter ends / the end of the way her podcast episode ends last week is, and then it happened again in season 10. And that just seems wild. And I really love the suspense of this book. Okay, Sheena, I'm gonna buy my good side. Like, I can't believe they did this to her twice. Like, listen, Bravo has dicked around a lot of these people, but I really thought they did it to certain ones. I really never thought they did it to Sheena because Sheena really has been the glue that's held so many people together. I mean, I even said this last week, I think, that even back in season 3 when Kristen had no friends, she had Sheena. Sheena was always able to befriend everybody, which we thought was a bad thing, but it kept her always in the mix with everybody. Like, think about it. In season 8, she had already made out with Brett Caprioni, new cast member, right? She had already had a relationship with Max Boyens, new cast member. So she's deeply in the mix already. And it's just really interesting that they would choose to make this decision. And I really am curious the reasoning for the decision that we never got, and I'm not sure it's something that she ever really got. But especially for season 10, why would they would make that decision again? And I would really, yeah, just love to know more about how this demotion process works, how these decisions are made, because it just feels very wild to me that Sheena, of all people, would be one of those people. Okay, let's move on to Love Island. And of course, they did a ton of interviews this past week, which I'm not really going to get into them all because it was like kind of insane. Like, literally, can you believe we're only like 1 week post Island? Like it's insane. But yeah, they've been doing their press tours. Chicks in the Office, Access Hollywood, The Vile Files, The Vile Files. Oh, The Vile Files. Call her daddy. But I guess I'll just talk the highlights that sort of come off the top of my head. Amaya and Brian living their best lives. He's making truffle pasta for her. That's great. I think Hurrdat and Shelly and Alandria have all unfollowed each other, if I'm not mistaken. Hurrdat was on Call Her Daddy and spoke about an abusive upbringing. She implied that there might have been some essay involved with her dad, but didn't fully say it, and said that whatever had happened to her involving her dad wasn't believed by her family. She said she was in like a lot of toxic relationships. She didn't really take any accountability for anything that happened in the villa. She said that she was actually felt like she was being bullied in the villa. Chris, on the other hand, said that he didn't really feel like things had fully ended with them and that the door was still open. She said, on the other hand, that she was surprised to hear that. Nick and Alandria seem to sort of have become a real thing. It's kind of crazy to say, but like, let me read something that Alandria has said since coming out of the villa, and this is just the other day. So she says, sorry, this is like super small, so I'm like having trouble reading it. This post is overdue, but I've been awestruck by how many people from various backgrounds and cultures have come together to support me, a small town black girl from Alabama. Thank you for your grace and understanding as I face challenges, emotions, and ultimately strength. Thank you for coming to my defense when the world misunderstood my words, actions, and heart. Thank you for the laughs and happy tears, for all the memes and edits. Thank you all you have all been truly a light. I can't express my love for you all enough. If anything, I hope I was able to inspire those who find me relatable to be authentically you and not be afraid to take up space. My Love Island journey was imperfectly perfect, but it was uniquely my own. My intentions were never to hurt anyone along the way, but to become a seed watered by love. I walked out of the villa with an unexpected but extraordinary connection that I hope lasts for all eternity. Friendships that last a lifetime, and a new outlook on life, and my head held higher than ever before. Thank you again and again and again. Yours truly, Alandria. Isn't that beautiful? An extraordinary connection that I hope lasts for all eternity. So all of these like Nicolandria haters being like, this isn't real. Like, how do these two people just like actually come together at the last minute? I mean, it seems that they might have, right? Like, listen, let's leave them alone. Let's just let them like enjoy their relationship. But like, I think they may be real, and I think they maybe just like got to know each other in sort of that friendship way, which is the kind of thing that Alandria really needs in relationships. She was like that with Taylor. So, but she didn't have that pressure, you know? She didn't have that pressure with Nick because he was with somebody else. And so she was able to grow a friendship with him and is continuing to grow that friendship with him, right? So I don't know, like who knows what'll happen, but I think there's potential here and I think it's adorable. Okay, and one last piece about Alandria actually. She did an interview with Variety and it was a little bit about her experience with racism on the show. So I just want to read a little piece of an interview that she did because I think it's really important and it gives a little bit more context to her experience with racism as it pertains to her experience on the show. So the question says, as a viewer and a Black woman who has watched past seasons, Love Island has historically been a tough experience for women of color. How have you personally dealt with the microaggressions and racism that has come your way post-show? And Alandria says, it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I heard it was even a meme of me being George Floyd and Hurrdat being an officer. That's a very touchy topic for the Black community. It's disgusting to say the least. I don't understand how you take a love show and make such a comment like that. I was even getting death threats. My family was getting death threats. It shouldn't be like that at all. I just don't agree with it. It's very tough and unfortunate as a Black woman. We feel like we can't truly speak our minds and express our feelings without being perceived as something different. I was everyone's go-to person, which is why you saw those tears when I was dumped from Casa. They were saying, she's the glue to this family. She always makes sure I feel seen, or she always validates my feelings. But I was not portrayed as that. I was portrayed as a mean girl. I'm like, how the hell did you paint me in this light? I hate it, but I do appreciate many of my friends doing damage control and speaking up for my character. So, I mean, I completely agree. Like, why are we making a love show about that? It's sort of insane. And we've talked about the toxic fandom quite a bit over time. And I just really hope that with highlighting this more, this issue of the toxic fandom, which I feel like we have over the past few months when it comes to Love Island and Bravo, that maybe next year, next season, rolls around when it comes to Love Island and maybe some of our Bravo shows. Hopefully, this can start to die down because it really is starting to get disgusting. And I wouldn't even blame reality stars for not wanting to go on shows because, like, why would you want to, like, experience that or succumb yourself to that? All right, so Sierra Ortega is back, and in my opinion, just too soon, girl, just too soon. So, like, I told you guys last week about her apology, which was great, apologize. But then, like, a minute later, she, like, posted an AMA about her experience on Love Island, and I was sort of like, girl, like, I don't know, that just feels a bit too soon for you to do that. And then this past weekend, she posts this story that's like her traveling in Mykonos, and it's one of those stories that has the writing over it that says, "You look happier," and then it says, "Thanks. I booked a flight to Mykonos after surviving the villain edit on reality TV, and I didn't end up with the guy who never actually liked me and wanted my friend the entire time." Girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? The villain edit? You're the villain because you did something villainous by being racist. It's not an edit, you did it. Also, too soon. Also, girl, like, come on. Come on. I listen, she was an influencer before this, and I realized that she sort of has to find a way to make big. But and I think there is really no rule book for how long you need to stay undercover for. But her shading Nicolandria, like right out the jump, like a week after this, especially when she said like a week ago that she had no issue with them, makes her look fake, it makes her previous apology seem disingenuous now, because it just seems like she did it just to get the fandom back because it seems like she wants to be right back in the mix immediately, and that's just not cool. And she's gonna get herself canceled. Like, this isn't smart. All right, let's move on to Southern Hospitality, which is our last story for the day. And as you guys may have suspected, Will Culp will not be returning. So Will is Emmy's partner, and they were pretty prominent in season 3 of the show because everybody was accusing Will of cheating on Emmy and accusing him of like talking shit about her all over town. So it was basically the entire storyline of that season, during which time he was in law school and he didn't show up to the reunion because he felt like he was being attacked by all of his friends. But then the both of them went on the Wild Files where he got to tell his side of the story only. And I do remember how it ended. And it pissed people off because they're like, it's not fair that you got to do it on your own time in your own way while everybody else has to, speak for themselves at the reunion. And I completely concur and agree. But I also think that there's some people who just aren't meant for this, and I think that's Will. So this is his statement. He says, "A little update. The new season has started filming, and unsurprisingly, I will not be a part of it this year. I will likely never film a second of reality TV ever again. It has been a horrible experience and a life lesson. A big thanks to some cast, some production, Andy Cohen, and all of the crew for seasons past. You know who you are. Your kindness and professionalism are rare occurrences in this industry. Best of luck to this new season. I hope it can be entertaining without a defamatory storyline or the unwanted use of my name, image, and likeness. When it is appropriate, I will talk more about my experience with production and the network which led to this decision. I am happy to be moving on and cheering Emmy on from the sidelines with the rest of you." So that was shady as hell, but also kind of nobody cares. But also, it'll be interesting because like Emmy won't be able to show such a big part of her life, but that's also kind of not her fault, but that's also kind of her job on reality TV. I do see it from his side from the sense of like, if this isn't good for me, I'm not going to do it. And I support anyone who believes that the reality TV space is not for them. I don't know what he thinks he's coming out with when it comes to like uncovering all the things production has done. I'm curious to hear. He clearly has like no, it doesn't matter what he says at this point unless it fucks over Emmy, but he doesn't seem to really care about that. He seems to just be like, I'll say the things I want to say when I want to say them. Maybe when he becomes a lawyer, maybe he will wait till he is fully licensed and then just file a lawsuit against Bravo, Andy, and everybody else. But I don't really know what he's so upset about. I mean, in terms of production, because it was a storyline that he was upset about, but like the show can't stop cast members from bringing a particular rumor or issue to camera, I guess. So, yeah, not surprisingly, nobody really cares, but they have started filming for season 4. And I do think it's a really good show. And she is a good reality star. She's a good crier. So I'm happy to see her next season. But yeah, I'm curious to see what that'll look like without Will. All right, guys, that is the end of the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you can do so at the Bravo Investigator. If you want to leave me a 5-star review, you can do that on Apple or on Spotify. And I love you, BBs. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.